There you are.
I had to I had to change my settings so I don't have my camera on
Well,
or my microphone on Instagram.
we wanted to see you
Yeah.
in the plant life behind you. I have very similar, well, you can't see, I have a similar plant. Greetings, folks. My name's Ari Gold. I do talks on Instagram Live. Today, Eric Watson is joining me, award-winning producer at Protozoa Pictures, as well as on the board of directors for the BOA Foundation, Lakota Farms Project. Correct me if I'm wrong about any of this. Morningstar Conservancy. What would you like to say about yourself as a filmmaker and activist?
What would I like to say about myself?
What would you like me to say about you? Just as by way of introduction, and then we'll have a more.
Oh, got it. Yeah, I'm just committed to doing my best to bringing content to the world that makes a difference in people's lives and being in service, ultimately.
Good. I'd love to talk. You know, we had a really interesting talk up in Topanga Canyon in December about the challenges of telling stories that activate people on things like, you know, ecology and the climate, and how to connect with an audience, a new audience in a way, so that we're, you know, those of us who are thinking about what we're doing to the planet aren't telling stories for people who already think like that, but how we break into new sets of minds and hearts. And I was wondering if you wanted to share a little bit of your experience in making movies that incorporated your knowledge about, you know, indigenous wisdom and the challenges, let's say, in the Amazon, and how we get people who don't know about these stories to know about them.
I just did a panel about 2 weeks ago with an organization called If Not Us Then Who, at CAA with a group of young indigenous filmmakers. And something really powerful emerged in that conversation for me, which is a lot of them were like, well, how do we break into Hollywood? And I'm like, don't. You know, you don't, everything you need is right here in your phone to create, develop, and distribute content. And you have perspectives on storytelling, and you have important stories to tell that that the world needs and wants to hear. So in some ways, I really want to encourage people to kind of break the paradigm of trusting Netflix and the other kind of in the box streamers for their content, but to really begin to go out and explore and find content that's being created by people on the ground in these places that are dedicating their lives to protecting the world and therefore us.
Mm-hmm. But so this question, you know, this idea of like not using Hollywood, I mean, don't you think from a bullhorn perspective, you know, the reality of someone making a film, let's say in the Amazon, on their phones and distributing it on the internet versus, you know, being able to blast it across even, you know, not necessarily big screens, but, you know, getting it on the front page of Netflix or whatever, where you reach that bigger audience? Or do you think that the model of trying to kind of go big is sort of got hypocrisies cooked into it that can't be avoided?
Well, I actually think that first and foremost, it's on a huge responsibility lies with the people that have the power to make decisions in that process. So first and foremost, I really appreciate the actors and stars that are putting their energy and their efforts and their kind of popularity into promoting causes that are really important for the world to see. And secondly, I want to applaud the writers, directors, and producers who are also doing the same thing. And then, you know, even the executives and the agents at these companies, it's on all of us. And so I think there's absolutely no, the only barrier that's stopping it is a barrier that's being created by us.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's on us to overcome that barrier and stop saying, well, this is what people want to see or this is what people don't want to see. There's important, what's happening in the world is literally a matter of life or death for all of us. And so what else is more important?
Yeah. Yeah.
Getting a show out there that's successful to make enough money to buy your new car.
I mean, I do look around at some of the shows getting made and greenlit, and I have to say, as an independent filmmaker who's sort of been outside the system and now kind of trying to knock my way into the castle, I'm shocked by how much stuff that's made doesn't seem to have meaning. It's like I vacillate between, there's people out there in the business who really care and are trying to do things, but then I see the stuff that's getting, that's on the front page of Netflix and Hulu and whatever, and I'm like, am I screaming into the walls of a castle, and my voice is coming back to me from the outside?
I mean, ultimately, no, you're not. And pessimism doesn't serve us ever. And it doesn't serve us as individuals, to feel frustrated in the face of those hurdles. Right. That frustration is by design. Mm-hmm. And so it's important to remember that, and it's important to internally overcome that and to continue to do what you know is right. And it's important to encourage and support others in doing the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So part of what I'm doing in, right now with my project Fogtown that I mentioned to you is we're going to be, I don't know if Jay mentioned this, but we're printing a zine where we're interviewing, activists and people like you. And then also we have, on the ground activists who will be talking to actors about how to tell stories and trying to kind of bridge the communication gap between some of the people who, let's say were organizers of Standing Rock, and then, an actor on a TV show who cares and doesn't know how to get that story across. And so we're planning on actually printing up issue 1 of Fogtown and having it ready by mid-May, which this talk will take the best of it and print it. We're printing its kind of zine style, so it should have a kind of like funky retro look. But one of the things that I'm focusing on is this question of like how to tell stories that appeal to, let's say, the comic book audience, or audiences that wouldn't necessarily gravitate towards a serious issue movie, but might want something that feels like popcorn, but actually has protein in it.
I mean, quality always rises to the top and finds its way, first and foremost. And secondly, it's if you're going to make entertainment, it is important to entertain. Mm-hmm. And so, it's on the creators to, just because something has meaning doesn't mean it's good.
This is true.
And so it's really important that you make quality content with meaning.
I want to show you something. Did I show you this book, the book that we're making? One second, I want to bring it to you just because. If I have a copy here. Entertainment is in color. So this is, did I show this to you?
I think you did.
Yeah, okay. So this is, my thought is that when we get this printed, like we get it, printed actually for distribution, we try to engage, the Comic-Con audience in like, let's have fun. Because I think the issue of actually having fun with this, and you detected it in me that pessimism can come out, whether it's business pessimism or political, ecological pessimism, and clearly the anger can fuel a lot, but if there can be joy in the way we address something that sometimes feels like a double-barrel shotgun pointed at our heads, if we can laugh at it, I think we can be a lot more effective. So I meditate every day to try to like get myself back into that mindset. But how do you keep yourself cheerful?
Well, I would go deeper than that, and I would say that the love is the guiding principle, and that if we are not orienting ourselves towards that in our hearts, then we are succumbing to a system that is designed to eliminate that from our hearts. But that if we're moving from and to that place constantly, and we're holding that as our North Star, then, you know, I think joy slots into that really nicely.
Mm-hmm.
And pessimism, you know, is a long way away from that,
Mm-hmm.
that level of open-heartedness.
Well, do you have techniques like, you know, daily practices that get you back into the love, you know, vibration?
I mean, I think it's, look, it's a constant struggle for me in my life and my orientation, but I also know that is the struggle to be navigating. And so I think that having the awareness of where is my heart in this moment, where am I, you know, what is really going on within myself in any given moment, and from that place I'm empowered to move myself towards something stronger and more beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And so you know, sure, I have tons of practices. I'm always learning new practices.
I mean,
my life is committed to personal growth.
Like Morningstar Conservancy is like focused on peyote, is that right?
Yeah, it's focused on the protection and preservation of that medicine in the South Texas gardens.
And so have you found yourself, I mean, have plants taught you, I don't know if this is too personal, but I'd be curious to know if you, you know, getting involved in something like the protection of, you know, peyote.
Well, it's not for me, right? It's for our children, our children's children, our children's children. The protection of the planet. It's like we're living in such a privileged mentality that we believe that this is all here for us,
Mm-hmm.
and to forget that there are you know, plants and animals and the unborn yet to come who are depending upon us to hold this life with responsibility and presence, is completely missing the point as far as I'm concerned. So protection of the medicines is just is for me, there's no difference between ultimately one plant and another plant. It's protection of the biosphere, protection of the ecosphere.
Mm-hmm.
And particularly in South Texas, you're dealing with, you know, the federal government has turned that area into a war zone. And I don't know if anybody's been down to the Rio Grande Valley, but it's insane. It's really insane down there. And it's
can you, I have not been, can you share a little bit about what your experience has been down there?
I mean, literally, it's like you drive around down there, and there's checkpoints where they pull you over and check your ID, and it's like, what am I? You know, it's South Texas is you know, totalitarianism embodied in our country right now, and mm-hmm. There's no, you know, due process and basic protections of the Constitution don't seem to exist in South Texas. Not to mention there's tons of militarized vehicles just driving around all over the place, just driving right over the plants, driving right over the environments and the animals, and they're building fences that completely block the ecosystem and the native peoples of those countries from traveling back and forth. Mm-hmm. As if we have any right to do that.
Yeah. So I mean, in terms of how you divide your focus, or how one divides focus, I mean, you know, talking about South Texas, you know, that's obviously not local for me, but also, you know, you've done work in the Amazon, right? Did you work on the territory?
No, Protozoa put it out, okay. And I've been on the phone all morning with the Amazon, so I'm
yeah. So what are you doing? What's the work you're doing in the Amazon right now?
Well, I believe that it's the, you know, where can we get the most value out of our efforts right now, and for me, the Amazon is the most important place to protect in the world. And if we can develop scalable models and solutions that protect the Amazon forest and the people that protect it there, then we can move, then we can bring those to other places in the world, particularly Africa, but also Southeast Asia and anywhere where there's forests at this point in time. Mm-hmm. So, you know, there are a lot of really good people working in the nonprofit, in the profit, in the NGO space, and on the you know, on the ground, and who are working to find solutions down there. So I have a group of friends down there right now with Sacred Headwaters Initiative. in Ecuador who are, you know, on a journey to explore how can they make a difference. And, you know, part of this I see is that it's really important to unite the different tribes, you know,
Uh-huh.
who have been maybe in conflict for thousands of years, to unite them in the face of the onslaught of you know, this extractive world that's trying to take and destroy everything that is, you know, that is their life
And ours, ultimately.
and,
Yeah.
and ours ultimately. I mean, this is, you know, we are Ouroboros. We are the snake eating its tail.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny when you just said the word unite the tribes, you know, I had a moment of just remembering that on some level we are also in a tribe, and you know, our tribe has a way of existing on the planet that obviously is drastically changing everything that happens. But if we think of ourselves as part of a tribe that needs to unite with other tribes, um, and there's something that I find kind of helpful about that, to imagine, okay,
Yeah,
this is the way my tribe is behaving right now. Um, that
there's no us and them. The concept of us and them, or the concept of nature being over there and not us not being it, or you and I not being of the same thing, is the division mentality that is destroying the planet.
mm-hmm.
And there is no us and them. We are all here together on this ship together, and it's all of our responsibility to take care of it.
Right.
Period.
Right. That I like that expression en lakesh, which means I'm the other you, or something like that. Which I love that expression. Yeah, I try to say that.
No human being is independent. We depend upon each other, and we depend upon nature that supports us, and that we are it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a very famous Indian sage who said, "I am that." This is the truth. We are one.
Do you feel like you're able to keep that in your heart every day? Because I struggle with it. I mean, what you're saying is so right, but you know, I wake up in the morning and you know, walk down the street and there's cars like flying by me, and I'll always have to like check in, like, okay, you know, bring my the cortisol down by remembering to breathe. You know, I'm part of it. I think it's this connection. I'm lucky to have trees around me here, but you know, when I'm in places where there are no trees, you know, I was in an apartment last year that had cars outside, and I find it hard to remember what you're saying about the, you know, the oneness. What do you
Uh,
say to people who, you know, are off track, or how do you help them?
I mean, we're constantly being tested, and we're constantly being met where we're at. A teacher of mine, Benki Piako, said, you know, every seed has a potential to grow, and meet every person where they're at.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Sorry about that beeping.
Which is, and for me, that is what the Buddha was saying. That is compassion.
Uh-huh.
You know, the Buddha made a choice that looked at everybody and goes, okay, we're all imperfect. How can I meet everybody where they're at and help them grow from where they're at?
Right. Do you feel like you've always had this connection and awareness, or was there a particular event in your life that shifted your perspective or kind of woke you up in some way?
I would say it's just been a process of remembering the truth
Mm-hmm.
over
Mm-hmm.
time, you know, and deeper layers. And I think it's important to have the impetus, each of us as individuals, to constantly challenge ourselves to be present with reality as best we can.
Mm-hmm. But like as a kid, do you think you know, I think back to, you know, you grew up in the Bay Area, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So growing up in a place that was as beautiful as that, with, you know, Muir Woods as a place you can walk around as a 6-year-old, you know, I consider myself very lucky that I grew up with that kind of, you know, extremely hard to miss natural beauty. You know, you can find natural beauty in a crack in the sidewalk and a weed, but you know, we had these beautiful forests across the bridge. And I know for me as a kid, like, it was as far back as I remember, I was connecting with nature. But then I do think about people who grew up in, you know, in the middle of the city, maybe without access to decent parks, and to them, the natural world is some idea from like an ad for camping on TV.
Well, yeah, I mean, I grew up in the middle of the city, and that's what I mean by remembering.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like the truth is we are of nature, and the degree that we have forgotten that is the degree that we need to remember it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the character that I just showed you in my comic book, her main the kind of trash goddess character, we call her, her main refrain that she repeats is "Do you remember?" So I love that you said that. But yeah, I feel like I remember when I remember my childhood, it was all there. My connection with nature is there, and it's actually now that I need to remember. You know, I remembered more then. I think the closer you are to the void, the closer you are to, you know, your birth.
Yeah,
the more connected you are to the oneness.
I mean, that's, you know, one of my native teachers always says that it's the children and the elders who are our teachers, because they're the ones closest to the other side, and therefore they're the ones closest to the true wisdom.
Yeah.
And those of us in the middle are the furthest away.
Right.
You know, we're the most stuck in our heads and believing that the me is the truth.
Right.
Me is not the truth.
Right. Yeah, we're like little little pieces of honey boiling in a vat, and then like it's boiling, and we pop up in the air like, look at me, look how cool I am, and then we plop back in.
Yeah, and we will all be humbled at some point or another with that truth.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we can remember that truth without having to be painfully humbled, all the better.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's obviously if we can do it without having to face the most extreme pain to wake us up, that would be wise, I'll say. Yeah. Anything more you want to add about the future of entertainment and activism? And you really feel like, based on your meeting recently at CAA, that you can activate new generations of people to tell stories and actually have them be heard?
I think this is a process, you know, and again, I think it's on the people within the industry to constantly work to tell stories that make a difference. And and there is nobody who escapes that responsibility.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I agree about that. So, well, I hope we're part of a movement that ends up being every single person on the planet. So,
we are.
Yes, we are, whether they know it or whether they've remembered or not.
Exactly.
Yeah, we're all in the same, we're rowing in the same boat. Hopefully we're not just rowing in a circle.
Again, yeah, that's what I mean by there is no us and them. You know, to be angry at them is to feed into the division and the illusion. Mm-hmm. We are them.
Yeah. Oh man, you sound like you're wise. I like remember these things like they're note cards on my spiritual calendar, and it's like, oh right, I want to punch somebody, but all right, that's me I'm punching. So
that's right. Years ago, I was in traffic in Los Angeles, and I was frustrated, and the person next to me turned to me and said, "Eric, you are the traffic." And I haven't really looked back since then at that. I'm still contemplating and still dealing with that resonant of that truth. But we are the traffic.
I know I'm saying this. I know I've now said this twice, but this is actually funny. I have to show you something from this book.
Hard
you can read it. It says, "You idiot, we're screwed." It says, "Chill, bro. We're just dodging some NAR traffic." And then this guy says, "Dodging traffic. You are traffic."
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. I think you were probably maybe inside my dreams for the last decade as I was writing this, but whispering your thoughts.
Well, I apologize if any trauma came up for you in that process.
No, you were dressed really nicely in the dream, so it was good.
Thanks.
All right. Well, thank you so much for talking with me and with us, and I look forward to sharing this with everybody. Okay. And appreciate what you do.
Well, thanks, Ari. Good to see you.
Yeah, good seeing you too.
Bye.